Chronological Bible again, and we're in event 39, AD 29, the Galilean ministry of Jesus. And many speculate that this is probably one of the points of Jesus' greatest popularity. He had healed so many people, fed people, done so many amazing things that were good for people that his popularity was great. However, he still had some adversaries. Those were the scribes and the Pharisees, who were looking at Jesus as a threat to established religion. And one of the problems that the scribes and Pharisees had in the day of Jesus was the fact that they had embellished God's laws with a number of traditions of the priests and of the elders. And here is one of those times when they came all the way from Jerusalem to question Jesus about his disciples eating with unclean hands. Now, the unclean hands was a tradition that you ceremonially washed your hands before you ate. And they challenged Jesus about his disciples eating with not ceremonially clean hands. And he told them that they were a bunch of hypocrites because they were violating God's laws, not traditions, with honor your father and mother. And I'm sure they must have been asking, well, how do we dishonor our father and mother? And he brought into play a term that all of you should learn for this particular section, which is Corban. Corban was something that you could claim on your possessions, that you had dedicated them for God, and therefore you couldn't give them to your parents. And so these scribes and Pharisees had been using Corban as an excuse to withhold what their fathers and mothers needed. And so he called them blind hypocrites, and he says, you go lead other people into the same pit because you're blind leaders. Well, he took this and went and explained it in a little more detail to his disciples, and he wanted them to be sure that they understood a principle which we're going to talk about now, which is it's not your outward hygiene that makes you clean and righteous. Let me say that again for you. You can use Old Spice and you can wash 3 times a day, and that doesn't make you righteous or clean. And that's exactly what Jesus was trying to say here. What comes out of the heart is what defiles man, because it's out of the desires of the heart that we have the sin of the flesh, the sin of the eyes, and the lust of life, pride of life, and that comes out of the heart. That comes out of the character of man. So it's not the physical cleaning of a man that creates righteousness and holiness, but rather it is the guarding of the heart to be sure that what comes out of the heart is of God and not desires of man. And it's a great lesson for all of us to think about when we think about motives. You see, one of the things that's always made me feel better is that God knows the motives that I have. On several occasions, I've been accused of doing something for perhaps getting at my own attention, or doing this or doing that, and that my motives were wrong. And I know that God knows my motives. He knows my heart. And if I had impure motives, if my desire was self-gratification or self-glory, then they were certainly wrong. But if my motives were compassion and kindness to others, just because I wanted to be pleasing to God and just because I wanted to do what was right, those motives are good and clean and righteous. So I think it's a good time for you to always take a look at anything you do or don't do, whether it's Corban to protect from giving something that is needed, or whether it's just the attitude of the heart and your motives are wrong and you want attention, or you are giving or taking away or doing something for the wrong motives. That's what Jesus was trying to teach here to the scribes and the Pharisees, as well as his own disciples. It's easy to fall into that trap, especially with the pride of life, to have wrong motives. And so we also need to be able to separate the traditions of religion versus the actual law of religion. and what's pleasing to God and what's not pleasing to God. So I hope that you'll think about that next time you do anything or say anything, or don't do anything or don't say anything, that you'll recognize that God looks at the heart. He's just as concerned or more concerned about the attitude of the heart than following traditions and following the course of man. God bless you and have a great day. Do you know how to get to heaven? It's clearly written out for us in the book of Romans. The book of Romans tells us that we're all sinners. We all fall short of the glory of God. We've all earned our wages. The wages of sin are death, and we've all earned our wages. But God loved us enough that he sent his Son to die for us. It tells us while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. And it tells us that we'll confess with our mouth and believe in our hearts that God has raised him from the dead and that he is a perfect sacrifice for us. We will be saved. Now, being saved means turning away from sin and self and turning to Christ and Christ alone by faith for our salvation. Have you ever done that? Why don't you do it today? Watch this little clip about the 3 circles. It'll help you to understand God's perfect plan for your life. God bless you and have a great day.